Imagine that you are a very promising lawyer. You have never lost a case, and here comes the opportunity of your life. Your career is going great. You are making a lot of money and living in luxury. What could go wrong? Hey guys, this is Afraid, and you are watching The Devil's Advocate. Let's get into it. It all begins in a courtroom in Gainesville, Florida. Kevin Lomax is an excellent young lawyer that never lost a single case. Impressive, right? He is that lawyer you would like to have by your side, a kind of guardian angel. While defending a teacher, Lloyd Geddes, against child molestation charges, Kevin realizes that his client is indeed guilty. This is because that teacher made a particular gesture while the little girl described how things had gone. At that point, Kevin asked for a short interruption to decide what to do. During the break, Kevin has a brief conversation in the bathroom with a journalist named Larry. Larry was supposed to write an article about this case, and he expected Kevin to lose. But Kevin's skills allow him to save the teacher, and thanks to a harsh cross-interrogation, he destroys the victim's credibility. After that case, Kevin, his beautiful wife Marianne Lomax, and a couple of friends decide to celebrate at a Gainesville club. Kevin's success made him famous, and during the night at the club, he meets Lehman Heath, a representative of a New York law firm who offers Kevin a huge amount of money to assist in the selection of a jury. It felt like something too good to be true, a once-in-a-lifetime thing. But sometimes, what seems too good to be true is actually too good to be true. Kevin initially thought he was being teased, but those numbers made him change his mind. Kevin did not think twice, and the next day passed by to greet his mother Alex Lomax at the church she frequented. Kevin's mother is the daughter of a preacher, a tough woman who raised her son alone, without a father. Alice has a bad feeling, but Kevin seems to be very excited, and she doesn't want to insist. Wonderful New York welcomes Kevin and his wife with open arms. After making the jury selection, Kevin discovers the great news. Remember the pedophile teacher? Thanks to Kevin, that molester turned out to be innocent. This was Kevin's 64th case. He had become a real machine. He now didn't care if his clients were guilty or not. So, where did we stop? A new home, a new start? What could go wrong, right? Well, Kevin and Mary have absolutely no idea what is waiting for them. After winning that tough case, another opportunity comes for Kevin. He meets John Milton in his office, CEO of the Milton Chadwick Waters law firm. A clever man with a shining charisma. Milton needs a criminal lawyer. He also sees Kevin's potential and offers him a hefty salary and a luxury apartment. Kevin accepts the job, and he and his new wife, Marianne, move to Manhattan. But why does Milton really need Kevin? Sure, he's an excellent lawyer, but that's not the only reason. He has an evil plan in mind. In the apartment, Kevin and Marianne meet Jackie Heat, a cute black woman with curly hair. Jackie is the wife of Lehman Heath, the representative of the law firm. Once hired, Kevin is introduced to the entire law firm team. In particular, he is attracted by the charm of Christabella Andreoli, a fiery red-haired woman. Initially, everything seems to be going well. Kevin is very busy at work, spending most of his time there, and Marianne spends her days choosing decorations and furnishings for their apartment. Kevin is given the Moyes case. Felipe Moyes is accused of killing animals. This is a matter of health law, practically a losing cause, but not for Kevin. In truth, Kevin did not understand why he was assigned such a losing cause. Is it a test to see if he would have accepted it? Thinking about it though, isn't it all a test? In conclusion, Kevin agreed to work on the case and visited Felipe Moyes to ask him a few questions. Kevin gasped when he sees what basement Moyes lived in. An unsettling basement covered in blood and candles, entirely dominated by darkness. In truth, Kevin visited him to get more information necessary for the case. But after Kevin requested help, Moyes opened a refrigerator filled with blood, fresh meat, and pulled out a large pork tongue. Along with the tongue, he put some nails on the table. Of course, Kevin wasn't expecting this kind of help, don't you think? Despite this disturbing scene, Kevin manages to win the case mainly for one reason. During the trial, the accuser did not stop coughing, to the point of not being able to articulate a single word. Consequently, This fact made the judge nervous, and we would never know what the accuser would have said. Did you wonder how this animal sacrificer had managed to pay for the lawyer? Turns out he had $15 million in his bank account. After the trial, Milton congratulates Kevin and gives him some advice. A piece of advice that I also think is very valid. Milton tells Kevin to keep himself small, to not get too cocky. You see, Kevin is a guy full of himself. He has won 65 cases, he is achieving his goals, and his dream is becoming reality. Milton tells him that he misses just one thing: to remain innocuous. This is because it is easier to win and have the power when someone underestimates you. And that is why it is best to keep yourself small. People won't see you coming. You will always be a surprise. Nobody will know what to expect from you and what strategy to implement because you will be unpredictable. Now let's move on. During a luxurious party organized by Eddie Barzoon, Milton meets Kevin's wife, Mary Ann, and starts talking to her about her looks, suggesting that she change her haircut. In doing so, Mary Ann, a sensitive and fragile woman, begins to doubt her appearance. During that same night, a certain Alex Cullen is accused of killing his wife, stepson, and a maid. Milton wants to assign the case to Kevin, despite Barzoon disagreeing. The final decision is up to Kevin. You won't believe it, he accepted. Over time, Mary Ann begins to suffer from panic attacks and feel isolated. Kevin is always at work and has little time for his wife. The situation got worse when Mary Ann began to have visions. While shopping with her friends, Mary Ann saw how Jackie's face transforms into something demonic, a face that gives goosebumps. There were hands moving all over inside Jackie's body. But it's not just her who has visions. Kevin begins to fantasize about his co-worker, Christabella. During a love scene, Kevin continues to see Christabella, and Mary Ann recognizes this. Kevin basically dreams of having sex with his co-worker, but he has no idea who she actually is. The course of the film changes when Kevin's mother Alice decides to visit New York. It was that night Alice met Milton, but from the facial expression, you could bet this isn't the first time she's met him. Kevin's mother quickly realizes that Mary Ann is depressed. She misses spending time with Kevin, like they did when they were in Florida. In fact, Alice tried to convince Kevin to go back to Florida together, but Kevin refused because he didn't want to leave Cullen's case. Although Mary Ann wanted to spend more time with her husband, Kevin spent more time with Milton, watching boxing matches, having fun at the parties, and so on. When Kevin was out partying, Mary Ann had a creepy vision. She saw a child playing with her ovaries, a vision that proves to be a premonition of her infertility. At this point, Milton also suggests that Kevin resign from the trial to look after his wife, but Kevin refuses, fearing resentment for not completing the case. This case was very important to Kevin. He realized that Cullen was actually guilty, but he had a very specific strategy in mind, and nothing could stop him anymore. Why did Cullen kill his wife, son, and waitress? He did it because his wife found him cheating with his secretary. Cullen and his wife had a deal. If he would cheat on her, she would become rich. Kevin's strategy was to prove that Cullen during the night of the tragedy was having a good time with the secretary. Eddie Barzoon, CEO of the company and a manic depressive, is convinced that Kevin is competing for his job when he sees his name on the company card. Surprised, Kevin denies this, and Eddie threatens to inform the U.S. Attorney's Office about the law firm's activities. Kevin tells Milton about Eddie's threats, but Milton rejects them. Inexplicably, Eddie, while jogging, is killed by vagrants with demonic appearances. Barzoon was cruelly beaten with wooden branches to death. Mary Ann has visions of what happened that disturbed her further. Kevin's strategy for the process turned out to be a success. Cullen's trial begins, and Kevin interrogates Cullen's secretary, Melissa Black, to create a false alibi for him. This turns out to be a winning choice that allows him to win that trial and clear the billionaire from the murder charge. After the trial, Kevin goes to look for Mary Ann, finding her in a church, naked and wrapped in a blanket. She claims that Milton raped and hurt her. Mary Ann's naked body was all damaged, a horrible picture. But Milton was with Kevin for the duration of the trial. Kevin then assumes that Mary Ann has harmed herself and entrusts her to a mental institution. Alice, along with Kevin and Pam Garrett, the company's case manager, visits Mary Ann at the institution. Once they get there, Alice tells Kevin they need to talk. Kevin's mother decides to tell him the great truth that will change everything. In 1966, Alice met Kevin's father, who was then a waiter. Kevin, being already under pressure, doesn't want to listen to Alice. But after she said the same sentence that Milton said during their job interview, he gasped, "Behold, I send you out as sheep amidst the wolves." But he didn't discover the real truth because Mary Ann's screams could be heard from a mile away. Pam reveals her demon nature to Mary Ann in a mirror. The poor, terrified girl hits Pam with the mirror and barricades herself in the room. Kevin tried desperately to hit the door to get inside the room, but it was useless. Mary Ann took a fragment of the broken mirror and committed suicide by cutting her throat. It was at that moment that Kevin lost everything. The love of his life had killed herself. It is in moments like that that we realize how much we loved one person and how many good memories we have had together. But sometimes it is too late. After this tragic moment, Alice finally reveals to Kevin that all this time, his father was Milton. At this point, Kevin thinks that only Milton was responsible for all of this. Wanting to confront him, he enters Milton's apartment with a gun. Kevin, enraged, starts shooting non-stop at Milton. But he realizes it's like throwing stones at a heavily armored tank. Kevin blames him for all his misfortunes and the violence to Mary Ann. Milton claims that he only acted accordingly to his actions. "I only set the stage," and that Kevin himself was the source of his suffering, his boundless ambition, cynicism, and selfishness. Milton, during this scene, describes God as a monstrous creature sitting on his throne, simply dictating the law, without giving humans a choice. At first, Kevin seems to agree with Milton's plan, but then abruptly mentions free will and shoots himself in the head. Kevin refuses to create the Antichrist and to give his soul to his father. When Kevin shoots himself, he doesn't die, but instead wakes up at the beginning of the film when he was defending the pedophile. He realizes that all he has seen is an idea of how things will continue if he continues his life this way, so he refuses to continue defending his client. You can see how happy he is as he approaches Mary Ann and kisses her. Outside the courthouse, he meets the journalist Larry, who offers to interview him and make him a star, and Kevin accepts, proving that he will always be tempted by the idea of success and fame and indulging in vanity. The reporter then turns out to be Milton, who says vanity, definitely my favorite sin. Milton says this because according to religious tradition, Satan was originally an angel, Lucifer, who was exiled from heaven because of his vanity and his desire to be better than God. He fell to earth and lived a hellish life, tempting the others. He persuaded people to make their own mistakes. At the end of the film, Kevin survives either thanks to his sacrifice with which God gave him a second chance on earth to be able to make up for his mistakes, or because Milton had decided to leave the freedom of choice. So to really understand what happened here, let me explain. As you would have already understood, Milton represents Satan. He lived on earth before the beginning of time, influencing men to commit terrible crimes or tolerate them, just as a ruthless lawyer would. Milton had a son, Kevin, and a daughter, Christabella, and his dream would be to create an Antichrist by forcing them to have a child together. Christabella is already aware of this. In fact, she had repeatedly tried to seduce Kevin. She appeared in his fantasies of her, as opposed to the pure and innocent Mary Ann, who represents the good and angelic woman. To push Mary Ann out of Kevin's life, Milton had started planning ideas in her head, tormenting her, making her feel useless, not enough, and possibly even making her feel guilty for not being able to have children. Overall, I think this movie is exciting. Al Pacino in particular showed a remarkable performance. In fact, he was nominated for the MTV Movie Award for Best Villain. My overall rating for this movie, on a scale of 1 to 10, would be a well-deserved 8. How much would you rate this movie? Let me know down in the comments, and tell me which movie you would like to see next. If you enjoyed this video, press that like button and subscribe to not miss horror movies like this one. And as always,
Stay afraid.